Hey, it is Any Old Gamer here today to talk about the Sath Tatu continuous damage team. Now, the good news is, this team was actually kind of tricky to figure out how to get it stable, but once you know the stat thresholds you're looking for and the rune sets you're looking for, it's an incredibly easy team to build. It requires very low rune quality. I won't call it early game because you do need some will runes, but you don't need good will runes. So I would call this an early mid-game team that consistently run. Well, now here's the thing. I'm using a one-shot Lushen. The Lushen is definitely an endgame Lushen. So if you run it with a slower Lushen, you'll be about 20 seconds slower on average, probably 15-20 seconds slower on average, but you can reach this team in early mid-game and still average sub 1 minute in Giants, and it also works in Steel Fortress, guys. I haven't tested it with a weaker Lushen in Steel Fortress, but I will say that the waves in Steel Fortress are way easier to clear than the waves in Giants B12, so the threshold for the Lushen is also probably much lower to make it work in Steel Fortress. Now, if you don't have the Lushen, then there's probably alternatives that you can use in SF as well. And if you don't have the ability to build a Lushen that can clear waves in SF, that may not be a bad thing. There's probably some alternatives you can use there as well. Now, you guys can see the runs in the background. The run we have going on right now is just about as bad of a run as one can possibly go. I have done 21 seconds with this team, and overall, I'm average. Actually, that might be the slowest time I've ever seen with this team, that minute 12. Always happens when you're recording, but that's actually a good thing because it shows you the absolute worst case scenario. The overall average for me with the one-shot Lushen on this team is right in the low 40-second range, like 42-ish seconds, somewhere around there. And it all just depends on whether or not Lushen derps that first wave. So if he does derp first wave, it's going to be a slow run. If he doesn't derp at all, you can actually do this in about 20 seconds. There are some key stat thresholds that you need to hit in order for this team to be stable. So that's the question everybody asks. Is this team stable? I will tell you that I've done something like 300 runs since my last fail. So since the last time I tweaked the team, because like I said, it took me a while to get this team stable. So since my last round of rune changes, I've done over 300 runs. I have not had a single fail. I've also done over 200 runs of Steel Fortress and have not had a single fail. That one really surprised me, especially when you watch the Steel Fortress runs, because it looks like you're going to fail every single time, but somehow it never does. So this team seems super stable to me. I don't know if maybe I will get a fail at some point. I don't want to swear it's 100%, but the way I've got it built right now, it's surely over 99%. So anyway, guys, we've got it running in the background. The basic concept is pretty straightforward. If you can build a one-shot Lushen, then you want your Lushen to act first so he clears the waves. If you cannot build a one-shot Lushen, then honestly, I don't even know if it matters where in the turn order the Lushen goes. However, it is essential that the Sath goes before the Melias. The reason for that is because the Melias kind of multiply continuous damage. So if they hit a monster with continuous damage, the passive kicks in and it gives them more continuous damage. So you need that Sath to go first so that he can put the continuous damage on the boss so that each of the two Melias can then multiply it. From there, if the Tatu uses her S3 like she just did and does the ignite, then you're going to one-shot anything. So the mechanics behind this, if you're not familiar with them, the Sath passive will allow you to do double the damage with any continuous damage, and the Tatu skill 3 will basically activate all turns of the continuous damage. So a 2-turn continuous damage, when Tatu uses her skill 3, will basically activate twice. Continuous damage is 5% of the enemy's health, so it would be worth 10%. You then double that with the Sath, and you're at 20%. So what that means is that because the Melia and the Sath continuous damage are 2 turns each, you only need 5 dots. If you get 5 dots on whatever, and there you go, 24-second run in the background. So if you get 5 dots on the enemy that you're fighting and Tatu activates her skill 3, that enemy will die, even if it's the boss. So right there, no Lushen derp, so we're looking good to start on this one. You can see the Sath goes second, there goes one Melia, there goes the second Melia. Now, my Melia are on Violent, and we've got that up on screen. I had tried them in Despair, I tried them in Double Will, I tried them a couple of different ways. I definitely prefer the Violent, and when you see the stats, you're going to know that these are not hard rune sets to make. Maybe not super easy, but definitely not hard. And I think you may not need to have as high of stats as I do either. So again, definitely an early mid-game team, but the reason I like the Violent is just because when they do derp, like in this run right now, we only had 4 dots on the boss, and then the Melia procced, and we put that 5th dot up so that we were able to clear, and I'm talking about the mid-boss. We only had 4 dots up initially because the mid-boss resisted one of the dots, and then the Melia procced and gave us that second one, and that allowed us to clear the wave. So you would expect to see, with my runes, I would expect to see this average around 43 seconds most of the time. We also ended the set of runs early. So we're going to go ahead and come over here to Steel Fortress now. You guys can see that it's going to work the exact same way. Now, I do believe that this team can be optimized further for Steel Fortress. I haven't spent any time trying to do it yet, but I have a feeling it can be. So the thing with Steel Fortress is that unless the Melia is proc, so I have gotten a 21-second run on Steel Fortress as well, but unless the Melia is proc, it is always going to be a slightly longer run because we are proccing the boss's shield. So you actually need 6 dots on the boss when Tatu does her Incinerate, and you're not going to get that 6 dots even if everything goes perfect unless you get a Melia proc. So I think there's some room for optimization, and it's probably something that I'll be working on in the next week or two just to see if we can speed this up. But in the meantime, this team is averaging, I would say, like 45-ish seconds for me on Steel Fortress, which I am perfectly cool with because it has not failed once yet. It's the first 100% team I've ever seen. And again, it may fail eventually, so maybe it's 99, but it's the first 99% team I've ever seen for Steel Fortress. There's always been so much RNG in this level. And honestly, the 45 seconds isn't bad. Like, my old team was maybe 37 seconds, but it failed 10% of the time. So in this case, the trade-off is totally worth it for me to be 8 seconds slower, but be 100% stable. So we'll finish out this run right here, just so you guys can see, because it looks like this one's going pretty clean. We need a Melia proc right here. We got it. So now the boss is going to cut. Tatu clears the boss. This was a really, really clean run. I think maybe 23 seconds, somewhere around there. 26. So there you go. You guys can see like what a good case scenario looks like. Now, one other thing that I will mention on Steel Fortress, as the team is built, the boss is always going to act after you've gone 5 times, and you cannot land that 6th dot unless one of the Melia's procs, which means the boss will always cut Tatu. So if we can find a way to get 6 dots on there without needing a violent proc, then there's a chance that the Tatu will go before the boss goes, and that's where we're going to get our top speed times. And that's why I think there's still some room for some optimization. Alright, so you guys can see the stats above me. We've got our Lushen. He does need to go first. Now, this Lushen is able to one-shot in Giants with no fight sets. You can squeeze some fight sets into this team. So if you have a Lushen that can one-shot Giants, but it needs fight sets, there is room to put basically 4 fight sets in this team. So if you can get there in 4 fight sets, then that's going to be okay as well. He does need to act first on your team, which means he needs at least 169 combat speed. If he's at 169, then every monster on the team has to be 169 since he's acting first. Otherwise, if you can get a few extra speed, you give yourself some breathing room. For Steel Fortress, I don't know the minimum threshold to one-shot, but it is way, way, way lower than this. I think most normal mid-game Lushens, as long as they have 100 crit rate, should be able to one-shot Steel Fortress. Again, I don't know the exact numbers, but those waves clear very easily. So this is just kind of what you need for Giants. And I think I might be overkilling Giants a little bit, but not much. Partly, though, also, I do have 21 crit damage on this artifact, and then I have some additional damage by attack here. And then I've also got some additional damage dealt on water here. So the Lushen actually is built a little bit stronger even than you see in the stats. Again, if you cannot one-shot the waves with Giants, it doesn't really matter. It's going to make your run slower, but it doesn't change the effectiveness of the team. Now, the other 4 monsters, super easy to build. For your Sath, who's going to be acting second. Basically, for Sath and both Melias, 85 accuracy is a must. This is non-negotiable. You must have 85 accuracy. I did the original build of this team with 2 of them in the 70s, and it was failing. That 85 is essential in order for you to land the dots on the mid-boss of Giants. If you don't land the dots on mid-boss, then you'll actually wind up losing monsters there, and you will get fails. 85 is all you need, because again, you can never take away the last 15% resistance. So if you want to use an accuracy slot 6 rune, that's fine. but you do not need any damage stats. Now, my rune quality is pretty decent, so I've got some extra damage stats on here, but you could legitimately have +0, or I guess +112 attack from your slot 1. You could have 15 crit rate, 50 crit damage. Like, you could have none of that, and it's fine, because you're doing all your damage with continuous damage. So, in this case, all you need is HP and defense, and you need enough speed to speed tune. This +65, because we have the super low base speed here, this is actually 169 combat speed with a max speed tower, so that's as slow as you can make a Sath with a max speed tower. I'm on HP, defense, HP. You can see this rune's not even grinded. I think most of these runes aren't grinded. I did get my accuracy through subs, but there's a lot of room for me to gem and grind. This 21 crit rate is wasted. The 7 crit damage is wasted. This particular rune, I think, is there just for speed tuning purposes. Like, even this 10 accuracy is wasted because I'm at 96. I could legitimately not be using this rune. The only stat I'm benefiting from this rune at all is 5% HP. It's just that I didn't have any other 0 speed slot 1 will runes, I think. Now, the Sath must be on double will, and the Tattoo must be on double will. This is, again, another thing that's not negotiable. Again, the rune quality can be fairly low, but you've got to have those will runes, because what happens is they're fire monsters, and if you get a derp, they're going to take way too much damage, and they're going to get frozen, and all sorts of bad things are going to happen. So you do need them on double will. The offset doesn't matter. I used focus to get some extra accuracy. You can use whatever you want. If you want to use fight runes, if your Lushen is close to one shot, that's okay. Now, acting second is going to be your Melias. I will tell you, one of my Melias is max skilled, and one of them has no skills at all. So in this case, honestly, if anything, I want to say having the skill 1 not maxed kind of helps more, because sometimes you get to the end of the fight, and the Melias, especially in Steel Fortress, the Melias are absorbing the boss's attack bar, and he doesn't take a turn, and it would be better if he took turns so he took more damage from the continuous damage. So not having your skill 1 max so that you don't have this extra harmful effect rate could actually be a good thing, because the continuous damage comes off the passive, which doesn't skill up. Having the skill 2 maxed so that it would turn cycle a little bit more is a little bit more beneficial, though. So either way, I don't think it matters. If your Melias are not maxed, it's not a big deal. If they're partially maxed, it really doesn't matter. Now, I tried a few different builds with them. I did put them in double will at one point, but it really didn't matter, because they're not going to get frozen that often in Giants, where they have attribute advantage, and then Steel Fortress. It would prevent them from getting stunned on occasion in Steel Fortress, but it hasn't caused any fails. And I mentioned this earlier in the video, the Violent does make a big difference, because if you get resisted on the mid-boss and you get a proc from one of the 2 Melias, then you get through that mid-boss much faster. So Violent Focus, again, you could go with Violent Fight if you needed it for your Lushen. You want to go super tanky. I was at a slot 6 HP runes, so for this Melia, I'm on HP Defense. Works just fine. I've even got defense and then like an unmaxed support artifact. This artifact, doing nothing for me. My accuracy is maxed already. We don't care about the crit damage. This artifact's legit doing nothing for me. This artifact, damage received from fire. Where's the fire? Like, damage received from water. It's doing absolutely nothing for me. I'm just basically getting 1% crit damage received from this artifact. That's it. So it's there for the extra 100 defense. This artifact, because it's a plus attack, isn't even giving me a benefit there. Like, seriously, the artifact's not a big deal. So for this Melia, same thing. We're Violent Fight. In this case, I didn't need the fight runes. It's just, it's funny. It's just how it landed. I was the only accuracy slot 6 fight rune that I had that was not being used. Excuse me, the only accuracy slot 6 rune I had that was not being used, and I needed an accuracy rune for her because I used all my big accuracy subs on this Melia. So, this case we are HP, defense, accuracy. Once again, you can see lots of, well, actually it's just the speed that's not grinded there, but again, I mean, I don't need this for crit rate. It's not doing anything for me, so the stats here, not very important. All that you really need is to make sure that you're tanky enough to take a hit. You've got 85 accuracy. Last monster is going to be your Tattoo. Once again, even though she's attack type, we're just building her as tanky as we can. So we are on attack, HP. The reason we're on this attack slot 2 is I think that's just what I needed for speed tuning. Honestly, don't even know why she's on attack slot 2, and also it does have a lot of HP and defense subs. So But she would do just as well if she was on an HP slot 2 or a defense slot 2 or a speed slot 2. Any of those would be fine. Once again, double will. Any offset is fine. You can use fight if that's what you've got, or if that's what you need, or you can use anything else. Tatu does not need as much accuracy. It does help to give her some, though. Because if she derps, then she's going to wind up doing a different skill that will land continuous damage, so it is nice for her to have some accuracy, but the skill 3 Incinerate does not require accuracy. That's part of the function of the skill. So if you don't have max accuracy on her, it's not a big deal. Same thing, she doesn't need any damage stats. If she gets them, great, but she doesn't need them. And then, of course, she does need to act last on your team. So that's it, guys. That's it. This is legit crazy, easy to build early mid-game team that will do sub 1 minute runs on Giants and Steel Fortress. So if you put that together with Trikeru, which can do your other 3 dungeons, you only need 2 teams to cover all 5 dungeons now. So guys, as always, hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time. Hey guys, if you're still with me to this point, then that means that you probably liked the video, found it entertaining, or even better, both. So please smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below, because those things help the channel grow, and more importantly, they show me that the video is useful, and that's the whole reason I do this in the first place.